It's the INFOWARS Nightly News. Today's date, June 5th, 2012. I'm your host, Rob Dew, and here's a little look at what we have coming up today.
Tonight.
Just to be straight about it, but you would sanction a strike before you would tolerate a nuclear Iran?
Yes, and I think that we need to begin to prepare people for that.
Vice presidential frontrunner Mark Rubio tells the elite CFR that the American people should be prepared for a war with Iran. Then, a terror scare in Minneapolis as the airport is shut down after TSA workers discover a water purification device? Seriously? And 5 TSA workers are fired and 38 suspended at Southwest Florida International Airport for failing to perform random screening. Plus, the ends justify the means as police illegally round up and handcuff 40 innocent bystanders after a bank robbery in Aurora, Colorado. And finally, a Rossum bombshell from Mike Adams, as lab test evidence against Healthy Family Farms are found invalid and allegations unsupportable. All that plus tonight's top headlines, up next on the INFOWARS Nightly News.
First up, it's more calls for warmongering from Mark Rubio this time. He's a vice presidential candidate in the wings, possibly for Mitt Romney, if Mitch Daniels doesn't beat him out. Here's an article from Paul Joseph Watson. Rubio, we need to prepare people for war with Iran. He was asked by moderator Richard Stingel, would you sanction a strike before we tolerate a nuclear Iran? And he said, yes, I think we would need to prepare people for that. The Florida senator responded. Here's that clip now.
You would, just to be straight about it, but you would sanction a strike before you would tolerate a nuclear Iran?
Yes, and I think that we need to begin to prepare people for that.
He also said we should prepare our allies in the world for the reality that, unfortunately, if all else fails, preventing a nuclear Iran may tragically require a military solution. And guess who he's going to want to send? He's going to want to send your sons and daughters, your cousins, your brothers, maybe even your fathers out to fight and kill people in Iran. Why? Because they may or may not have nuclear weapons, and it's been proven that they don't have nuclear weapons. But we're going to go in and we got to fight Iran because they're a rogue nation and they're not in with the New World Order. So we must take them down. Remember that, people. We must take them down. Moving on to some other sad news. Poland rises as investigation accuses Russia of plane crash assassination of government. You remember back in April 10th, 2010, there was a plane crash that killed the Polish president and 95 others of his cabinet. And now, about 2 years ago, much of the senior government was wiped out in a Russian plane crash. The consequences linger today and may prove a defining moment in Poland's history. Now, going back, we have an article from Kurt Nemo, April 12th, 2010, talking about different people writing about conspiracy theories. In this article, he says, not only did Poland decline to be a victim of the bankster loan sharking operation, Poland's central bank had the audacity to offer the IMF a loan to help other countries overcome the effects of the global crisis, the AFP reported on March 29th, 2010. Poland was the only member of the 27-nation European Union to have experienced growth in 2009, and the IMF forecast that the economy would expand by 2.75% this year and 3.25% in 2011. Well, once you get rid of the entire cabinet and the president, well, then you could come in and send your minions in, most likely from Goldman Sachs or other large banking institutions, to help change the course of that country. So you got Poland, a proud country with proud people. We're the first to be invaded in World War II, and now they've had, 2 years later, they're finally investigating this crash. Now we're going to show you a video that was circulated on the internet many times, and people made digital enhancements. This is one we found with the digital enhancements, and it has English subtitles. So here we go. We're going to roll that, and this is eyewitness video just after the plane crashed.
Нихуя себе! Нихуя себе!
So there, you can look at the video for yourself, and with the digital enhancements, you definitely see people running around. You can hear gunshots. They have the translation there. I don't know if the translation is 100% correct, but let me tell you, if the Russians are involved in killing the entire Polish cabinet, or the majority of it, I mean, there has to be some serious repercussions for that. Moving on to more military news. U.S. hopes stealth ship will answer a rising China. A super stealthy warship that could underpin the U.S. Navy's China strategy will be able to sneak up the coastline virtually undetected and pound targets with electromagnetic railguns right out of a sci-fi movie. But at more than $3 billion a pop, critics say that the new DDG-1000 destroyer sucks away funds that could be used for better killing operations and killing more brown people around the world. With the first of the new ships set to be delivered in 2014, the stealth destroyer is being heavily promoted by the Pentagon as one of the most advanced destroyers in history. So there you go. We're going to spend $3 billion a pop on a ship to go kill more people around the world. It makes you wonder, how did we get here? How did we get to this place where war is the constant meme? You know, if we're not at war, we're talking about going to war. And if we're finishing up a war, we're looking where else we could go. We're starting war fronts on coming up on 10 countries now, if you count all the little skirmishes that we're involved with, not counting the hundreds of bases across the world. Where is it going to end? Well, John Baum made a special report here, and it's called The War Machine, and it talks about the propaganda, how it started off back then, trying to get people to sell their businesses, sell their personal businesses to go and join the war effort. It was going to teach people new skills, but what was it really doing? It was really ensnaring people into this giant web of killing other people across the world. So let's roll with that right now.
The War Machine. A goldmine for the elite, a duty for the average citizen. Well-executed war propaganda is key to the overall psyop to push the world into war. The fog of fervent nationalism causes a man to give up his family business and join the effort with little questioning.
I've got a nice little store built up. What shall I do with it?
Well, maybe you can sell it.
As their establishments are transferred to folk without critical skills, many small businessmen discover they can
The war machine feeds on the success of the individual. Suddenly, opportunity springs up for a black man in a segregated society.
Do you want to learn one of these jobs, Hubert? Well, then that's the one for me.
In government schools all over the country, such workers train for jobs of vital importance. Day and night classes are conducted. To these free schools also come men who have lost their jobs as a result.
Disguised as opportunity, the war machine integrates the individual into its system.
Call upon women. At first, women go into service jobs, releasing men for the army and for war industries. Out of 50 million women at the beginning of the war, 10 million were working. In war towns all over the United States, women are called upon to leave their homes and take jobs. Among our young unmarried women...
What better way to process eugenics than to incorporate the females into the war machine?
Factory work is usually no more difficult than housework.
And our enemy is blanketed with hate speech.
You'll see ruins. You'll see flowers. You'll see some mighty pretty scenery. Don't let it fool you. You are in enemy country. Be alert, suspicious of everyone. Take no chances. You are up against something more than tourist scenery. You are up against German history. It isn't good.
Of course, we were defending our liberties in World War II, but the war machine's targeting of individual liberties quickened into the monstrosity we are experiencing today. Our indifference is multiplied. As we become indoctrinated into a culture of death, the nationalism is removed. A globalist mind frame has been injected. Now the enemy is humanity itself.
What do you think
is a viable figure that Gaia, that the planet can sustain?
I would guess, living the way we do, not more than 1 billion, probably less.
The drone program that the CIA runs is a huge supportive element of U.S. national power.
I think it's great. I think we ought to be using technology to make law enforcement more productive, cuts down on manpower in the air, and also more safe. That's why we use it on the battlefield.
The technological advantages of transgenic crops are contained in the seed.
Getting those technologies to the poorest farmers is absolutely one of the keys to making the breakthrough out of extreme poverty.
A soft war on individuality, statehood, country has been raging quietly for years, masked by the unyielding propaganda of the war machine. John Bound, INFOWARS Nightly News.
So you can see the propaganda has gotten a lot more sophisticated now than it was back in the day. They're a little more blatant and in your face, but nice. It's the government coming to help you. And now it's just talking to you like you're a stupid slave, a stupid sheep just sleeping. Yes, GMOs are good. War is good. It's all good. You just keep following the plan. Now we're going to go to a couple articles here from Natural News. Mike Adams was here doing the show yesterday, and when he left, I said, hey, I read this article. It's called Ross and Bombshell, Lab Test Evidence Against Sharon Palmer Found Invalid. And Mike goes, yeah, there's a whole bunch to this story. You're not going to believe it. And I said, well, tell me. And he went on this long tale, and I'm going to try to bring it up to you in a nutshell.